Welcome to the Standard Age podcast, conversations exploring the lives of entrepreneurs and those instrumental in growing companies. This podcast serves as a communal supplement to Standard H, my automotive-inspired line of apparel and accessories. Though popular among car and watch collectors, the elevated range of basics made in Los Angeles are certainly fit for many other discerning individuals. I invite you to visit standard-h.com to explore the latest releases, while the Substack exists for further deep dives behind the brand. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. Now let's get to the show. Those of you who listen to this show regularly will absolutely welcome back James Stacey for round two. If you're new to the show, James co-hosts the Gray Nato podcast alongside Jason Heaton, another previous podcast guest on the show. James was somewhat recently promoted to editor-in-chief of none other than Hodinkee, so I was excited to catch up. James and I share a lot of enthusiasm for similar subjects, and as a result, he's become a good friend over the years. We shared an unforgettable day together last year at the Goodwood members meet, where we talked race cars, drank beers, and even smoked cigars together. Truly an incredible day in England's countryside. Needless to say, this episode picks up on a similar note, so it's a fun one for me. I hope you enjoy it. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and join me in welcoming James back to the Standard Age podcast. Well, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, dude. How's things?
Good. We haven't really talked since your promotion, so on the
Not
record,
much,
congrats.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate that.
What's sort of the difference like from prior to and then now, like day in, day out? Like how's
Oh,
your
I don't really write about watches anymore. I mean,
Oh,
you got to run the whole department, so it's a lot of scheduling. It's a lot of reading other people's stories. It's a lot of management and planning and long-term budgeting and all that kind of stuff.
oh wow. Okay, so you're
So
even
yeah,
like into
if I
the
can write about a watch, that's the treat these days.
okay. So you're even into like the dollar signs. That's
Oh,
interesting.
of course, yeah, you got to run the whole department.
Yeah. Um, that's fascinating. But because like I also kind of want to talk about just like media at large and like how it's changed a lot. Because like let's go back, I don't know, 15 years. It seems like a lot of writers that I know these days also like shoot their own photos, for example.
Hmm.
Whereas like 15, 20 years ago, you had writers and you had photographers. And you still have that today to some degree, right? Um, but would you say that like when you're looking for a new hire, are you not I mean, I guess the general you, if you could speak generally, I guess. And maybe it's attributed to Hodinkee specifically and you, James, but like
Sure.
um, are you looking for people that can also shoot, or is that just like a ancillary benefit of that person?
No, I mean, if we were hiring for an editor at Hodinkee, they would need to have essentially the full scope. And if they could, let's say they couldn't shoot, but they could um, script and prep edits and do, if they leaned more towards video, then
Okay.
that's fine. I think back, if you go back in the day far enough, even before kind of the existence of watch enthusiast media, when it was maybe just guys online, you were
Yeah.
doing everything at home because it wasn't a business, right?
Right.
So the idea of like watch enthusiasm, and to a certain extent like the next wave of automotive enthusiasm, either came because it was very grassroots, like a cottage industry, like you were on a forum
Hmm.
or something like that, or maybe when I worked for a blog to watch, sorry, when I worked before a blog to watch with Watch Report, the idea of like getting a press release from a brand wasn't even that common necessarily, because they didn't necessarily have digital assets always.
Oh, sure.
So they might have the image pack that they used on their website, but if you go back to 2006, 2007, there's only a few brands actually selling watches on their website at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't unheard of, but it was much more rare than it is now.
Hmm.
So the development of those skills, or the need for something like photography, and then in a world where, like, with Watch Report, I was getting $10 an article, so there wasn't a budget to have a writer and a photographer.
Right.
And my guess is if you go far enough back into some other version of enthusiast press, maybe automotive, like I mentioned, at the time, their bigger budgets would have meant that you had a writer and they might have had an assigned photographer or a staff photographer that took jobs.
Hmm.
Now it's something where I feel we've come full circle, and there's not that much money for, say, an editorial budget, depending on what you're doing. So the idea of having someone who just writes, if you're covering product if it's product storytelling, then they would be missing a skill set there for sure. The
Yeah.
value of that person to an editorial effort would go up the
Yeah.
more skills they have.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I try to put myself in the shoes of, say, somebody that went to college, they studied literature or English or, something like that, and like wanted to be a writer.
Hmm.
And then they're like, oh, well, guess what? If you want to write about this, you also need to be a pseudo professional photographer. So they're
Yep.
like, oh shit, like I've never even held a camera before. I just want to write. And then they're like really struggling to find a job.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I think there's definitely worlds, or there's still roles in this world that are just writers.
Sure, sure.
Some of the outlets that are more magazine focused, my guess is that's more produced photography, which may or may not be tied. Like you'll see a lot in even in Hodinkee magazine, a lot of that photography is separated. The
Right, sure.
photographer shoots that, and we might have a writer write something else or write the text that goes around it. Not always, but more commonly than we would see on the website.
Totally.
And then you have other scenarios where you have guys like my TGN cohort, Jason Heaton. He'll do a lot of work that doesn't require the photography. He's not reviewing a watch, but he'll happily tell a story where we dig up some old archival photos, or in the most recent Hodinkee magazine, he wrote an incredible story about the Camel Trophy series with
Yeah.
Land Rover, and we're able to go back to guys like Nick Dimbleby, who were the original photographers for that. And again, that happens because a magazine has a different budget than a story that goes up on the website, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And I'm glad you brought up the magazine because I was kind of curious. Admittedly, embarrassingly, I'm behind on my magazines, and my email tells me that the latest Hodinkee magazine is en route to me. So I haven't seen it
Oh,
yet,
great.
but I'm
Well, I'm
excited.
glad to hear it. It's a good
Um,
book.
yeah, good. Well, how has it changed, would you say, over the last few years? I feel
The
like
the
a cover or two ago, the tactile sensation actually changed. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're always kind of fine tuning the paper and how we're processing the covers. A couple issues back, we did a secret cover that was actually glow in the dark.
Yeah.
So if you happen to have the Longa cover, hit it with a UV lamp and see if you got one of the secret ones. Only a few of those were made, but like the cover itself, it was for a reference points on the Lumen series, and we worked with a partner at Hemlock Printing up in Vancouver to figure out how to do a glow in the dark cover.
Cool.
And so far, I don't think I've seen anybody who'd like noticed it, after a sunny day on their coffee table and put it on Instagram. So it's a little bit of a secret
Oh,
from
interesting. I
that
gotta
standpoint. But
check that out. Yeah.
hopefully somebody's got one of those and can hit it with a UV lamp because it's very cool. I have one here. But beyond that, I mean, all of that's always fine tuning, and then you're buying paper long in advance of the magazine being made, and the cost of that paper changes. It's like there's a bit of a market for it,
It's like concrete.
depending. A little bit, yeah. Concrete, wood,
Yeah,
materials,
yeah,
right?
sure.
And
Yeah.
so that's always something where we're always trying to find the absolute best quality for a given price point. Obviously, you don't want to run a magazine like that losing money, but it doesn't have to be something that you're dragging every penny out of, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
The major change that we've had recently in the last, like in the scope of as long as I've been leading editorial, would be having Malika take over the magazine.
Yeah.
So that's my executive director of the magazine is Malika Crawford, and she's just I have my skills, and some of those skills are good and useful for things, and she has other skills, and she can make a magazine. And I mean, we just the last several books, the last three that her and Matt Thompson have largely led from. Matt does our design, our
Yeah.
in-house design for Hodinkee. I think are three of the strongest books ever to come out. They're the most broadly scoped in terms of um, writers and perspectives and all that sort of stuff, and then the best photography, the best, I think, some of the best papers, some of the best book.
Great.
It's always something where it's $35, which, like, depending on your scope in the magazine world, could feel like a lot or could feel like very little.
Uh,
Magazines get really expensive sometimes.
yeah,
And
totally.
I think if you held it in your hands and you had some experience with other premium books like that, I think you'd be at least impressed by it,
Hmm.
or at least it would fit where it should in the market for it. So yeah, we're very happy with it, and I'm thrilled to see the new book.
Sweet. Well, I had no idea that you guys purchase paper in advance. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of wild. I never even thought about that. Now, the
Yeah,
internal
so
paper
the
and the cover obviously are two different
two
tactile
different stocks
sensations. So
for
like
sure.
you got to buy both in advance.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, or at least you have to be on a plan to buy. But that way, if you so where let's say you wanted to change the number of books you're making, you might go back and renegotiate the rate on that paper for the next one. Like if you're going from 50,000 to 80,000 copies, or from 10,000 to 15,000 copies, that changes how much paper you're buying, obviously, which can change the math behind what that costs and whether or not it makes sense, or maybe it makes sense to go to an even better piece of paper because at that cost it'll cost the same as what you're paying for a slightly lesser quality. So there's some variables there. In my mind, you always want to hit kind of a certain line that feels right, and if you're above it, awesome. But kind of like with the audio or video in a podcast, once you hit a certain line, most people can't tell the difference.
Totally.
Maybe if they've got a great car stereo or they have great ears, but if you're below that line, everybody notices. So that's kind of the math there.
What sort of percentage are like giveaways, would you say, for promotional purposes for the magazine?
Oh, well, I mean, basically, like if you help us with the book, you'd probably get one. Then we have a comp list for friends of the brand and things like that. It'd be probably in the couple of hundreds. Obviously depends on how many partners we have for the book, and then some of the advertising partners within the book would get a box or whatever for their office, and then we have several distribution partners, both in New York locally, and then in Barnes and Noble, and then in international locations in the UK and elsewhere. So all of those would have, I guess none of those are necessarily promotion, but I don't think it's necessarily like a great money making endeavor,
Right.
to put your book in retail when you could sell it online, but it puts it in a place where someone gets to touch it before they put the $35 on their credit card.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't. So it almost sounds like almost more of a finite number than like a percentage, let's say. Because I would imagine,
Yeah, I mean,
like, as
I'm sure there's a percentage. That's when we get into spreadsheets, and that's why
yeah.
that's one of the things I leave with Malika and Matt. Um, I mean, it would be a number that I would know if I felt that number was important, but I wouldn't even have predicted the question if
Right.
I had predicted talking about the book for this long. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a percentage, or my greater suggestion or assumption would be that there's a certain dollar value that is written off as books that are given out or shared or available
Yeah.
in the office. If you come to a Hodinkee office sometime in the future, there's usually a book or two laying around or a box somewhere, and we make sure people leave with them and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
not a bad promotional tool when you look at what it
No.
costs to print a brand book. If you're only printing 1,000, we're on top of many 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 thousands of magazines. So at a certain point, the aggregate cost of a single one's pretty good promotion.
Yeah, that's really great. That's awesome. Yeah, and because I mean, a typical like traditional marketing budget's like, I don't know, 10-15% of overall
Yeah.
revenues, let's say. So, anyway, it's just kind of interesting. You mentioned TGN. How many episodes are you up to now?
Numbered episodes 380, depending on when this comes out. We're recording this on a Tuesday. 380 comes out on Thursday, the 18th. And then we used to do non-numbered episodes. So we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 400, 420, somewhere in there.
That's so great,
So
man.
yeah, it's a decade this year that
Yeah.
we've been doing, because we started out once every 2 weeks, and then it wasn't until the part of the pandemic where we went weekly. We're all just sitting at home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
and
totally.
then we started a pace that you can't really dial back from. So we're still weekly, still five a month.
What's the plan there with regard? Because like once in a while you'll come out with one with like a guest, and then you'll do like Q&As, either through the Slack or whatever. Which those are, I like them all, right? Like I like all the episodes, but like what is the strategy, and or like how do you know when to release what? Or is it
Oh,
just kind of like we
there's
feel like
no,
doing it?
there's no strategy. The strategy is just to do what feels right to Jason and I. That's what's always worked for the show.
Yeah.
And it allows us to be sort of intuitive
Hmm.
rather than overly structured.
Yeah.
So this week we're talking about the new Doxa, the T-Graph 2. We had a run of some absolutely incredible guests in the last little while. We had Victor Vescovo on recently. We had Kim Frank on recently. So I mean, basically, we're the quiet rule that I don't think I've ever said publicly on the internet is like, if you come to us, we probably don't want you on the show. It's not always the case. But I would say we get pitched daily. People who clearly have never listened to the show, that are like the CEO of a whey protein, DTC business, that want to come on because we have SEO for adventure and travel and that sort of thing. But for the most part, we get connected with interesting guests from past interesting guests,
Hmm.
or from we have a few people who are just kind of connectors for us that we're lucky to have in our circle. David Guncannon being one of them. That's Victor. That's of course Kim. That would be Don Walsh before he passed, R.I.P. So I mean, there's lots of that kind of thing. We don't consider ourselves like an interview show. So we have guests on when they're available and
Yeah.
when it works, but it's something that we try and keep very low effort tied into. And then the rest of the shows are like, what do you want? It'll be a Friday or a Monday before we record, and we go like, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
And if there's nothing, we can, we've got thousands of options to dig at questions from the Slack and that sort of thing. We do a monthly Q&A that's like a call-in show.
Yeah.
So yeah, we haven't really run out of topics after 10 years, so I think it's
No.
probably working the current
Yeah.
pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it was great to see you guys in Toronto, just the two of you, and going out to dinner and
Oh, it's
stuff. Can
super
you?
fun.
I can't believe that's been almost 2 years, if you can
Hmm.
imagine. Um, Toronto was a good time.
Yeah, it was
Um,
fun to cross paths at IWC and at
yeah, and
Watches and
watch.
Wonders
Yeah,
just
we'll
a few
get
months
there.
back.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. And I can't believe that's already been 2 months. Like it's just
Dude,
bonkers.
everything time compresses for sure.
Yeah, 100%. How's the little man doing?
He's great. Yeah, he's great. Nearly a year old. Doing really well. Obsessed with Hot Wheels. So
Oh,
lots of
sick.
we're expanding the collection of Hot Wheels pretty aggressively. I got what are the recent ones? I got a Maserati Shamal in
Oh,
black, which is
incredible.
really cool. That was at like a bin at a ice cream shop near my cottage.
Really?
And that's I don't I didn't even know why would you make a Hot Wheels of a Maserati Shamal, right? Like
Right.
why is that a thing? But that's a fun one. And I just got a Pajero Evo Mitsubishi, which is super cool. White
Shout out
wheels, like
Cole Pennington.
oh yeah, shout out Cole. I sent him a photo immediately. I sent every time I find one of these cars, I send him and I send Thomas Holland a photo, just like look at the score here.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
great.
that's all he likes to do is crawl around on the floor and push a car around while making car sounds.
I have
So
so my daughter actually calls them vroom vrooms. So she's always pointing out cars, and then
sure,
she has a little Hot Wheels, a little white 993 that
there
she
you go.
just like loves. She just carries it around the house, and I'm just
Yep.
like, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean
Just don't
993.
bang
That's
it on
good
the
taste.
table.
My guy's got he's got a Dakar when they're still called the Rally. And he's got a late or an early Alpha Julia, which is also
Oh,
was a
that's
fun
awesome.
find. That was just at the grocery store.
That's
So
amazing. Oh,
yeah,
that's so great.
love a Hot
What's
Wheels. It's the only $2 fun left in the world.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Right?
You have two daughters. So
Yep.
what at the same age, if you can go back, like how is it different with him than it was with those two? I'm sure all
Yeah,
three are different, but
they're all very different. I would say like the difference I'm experiencing from girls to boys would be like just the level of physical energy is higher. My girls were a little bit more internal. Even by one, they like to sit and do something, and the fella's just got to move. He's got to be moving all the time. So
yeah, I feel like my daughter is actually more physical than I would have anticipated. And I
okay,
don't know if that's because I take care of her most of the days
yeah, it could
or
be.
not. And then I'm just like, let's go, you know?
Could just be a
Like
high energy type, or she
it,
feeds off of you, or she finds that she's happy with that energy and can replicate
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been fun though, man. I've had a blast.
it's an
It's been a lot
adventure
of fun.
for sure.
Oh, for sure. You mentioned the cottage. I imagine a lot of your time this summer is going to be planned up that way.
Yeah, we try and get up most weekends, and we try and spend a couple longer stints up there when we can.
Mm.
It's a nice spot. It's a little less than 2 hours outside of Toronto,
Oh,
and
great.
we're right on a lake, so we do a lot of snorkeling and swimming and that kind of
Dock
thing. It's
jumping.
nice to be in the water. We've got a decent amount of property, so we can do some birding and some hiking and that sort of thing as well. So
Sweet. Oh, that's
yeah, it's a
awesome.
good setup.
How long have you guys had that place? Has it been like
My parents
generations or?
My parents' family bought it. Like my father and his siblings and my late grandparents bought it the year I was born, so 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's great. Oh,
Yeah,
you're 40 this year.
I am. Yeah, a couple months ago.
What was the celebration or was there one?
Yeah, went out to dinner. Nothing big. I'm not like a real birthday guy.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think like
Gotcha.
after about 25, you're just a guy. Like,
Dude, I had a
uh,
pizza
you know,
party. I went to a
there you go.
pizza,
Oh,
like
that's
a
nice.
nice pizza restaurant, and I
Sure.
was like, let's throw it back. I'm 40. Let's like make it a 4-year-old birthday party at a pizza spot. But
I
granted, the
love it.
pizza was like, Neapolitan style and like,
Sure.
nice,
Not Domino's. I
great
got you.
cocktails, but
Yeah,
but
we went
that's
for oysters.
oh sick. Yeah.
Which is a fave for mine and that sort of thing. And yeah, no, nothing major.
Yeah.
I just like I said, not a huge birthday guy. And what am I going to do? Give myself an excuse to buy yet another watch? Like,
We went to
Probably
Asia
not.
for my
I'll get there
wife's,
eventually.
so
Oh, there you go. That's good.
a
A
little
trip is a
different.
great way to do it. I had originally intended or hoped to do the Tour de Mont Blanc for
Oh
my
yeah,
40th this summer,
that'd have been
and
awesome.
then instead had a son, so I'm okay with that trade.
Right, right.
And when
Yeah,
he's a little bit older and he can do what however many kilometers a day you have to do on the tour to do it in 10 days, probably that's probably like, you know, 18, 19 kilometers a day
yeah,
on the trail, then we'll get out there.
that's awesome. What's the travel schedule looking like for work these days?
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot of saying no, essentially, just so
really.
that because the when I was just doing the writer stuff, when I was just an editor, that was the job, was to travel and do it. Now, if I travel, not only are you committing to that time, and it means you're either trying to run the website from wherever you
Right.
go, or somebody else has to cover. I mean, my colleague Tim Jeffries would cover for me if it was something where the time zone, like I went to Japan for a few days at the end of February for a Louis Vuitton event, and like you can't really keep up on the site unless you're willing to stay up 24 hours a day. So when the job, with the scope of the job kind of changing, and a lot of it requiring like just time at a computer, reading stories, scheduling stories, prepping what comes next, managing changes in the schedule, all that kind of stuff. There just isn't that much time for actual writing. So if I take a trip, I also have to plan to know that in the week after that trip, I have time to write said story,
Right.
right? And so it's kind of twofold. So just more selective about some of that stuff, or in scenarios where there's not a natural home elsewhere on the team.
Hmm. Shout out Tim. I was able to meet him at a Richemont dinner in Geneva, and
He's the best.
he and I could have connected over Instagram, I don't know, many moons ago, and yeah, it was cool. I don't even know that he knew exactly what I looked like, so I went up to him, and so I was just like, Tim, Wesley, and he's like, "Oh, what's up, man?" So it was
Yeah,
great. We had a
Tim's
great
Tim's the best.
conversation. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
the man.
I'm very lucky to have him.
Um, yeah, big fan of Tim. Watch Wednesdays, great
Oh,
clips.
wrist check's crazy.
Yeah, wrist checks, and he's the energy, man. He's just always
Dude, he's
got
a
it.
Tasmanian devil. And
It's
the funny
so
thing is,
great.
like that, that's his, like, when the camera's on. He's a pretty chill guy, but he has this ability to immediately like
He's got
ramp up his
the
energy,
next
and
gear.
it's like super positive. Yeah, he's great.
That's
He does it like nobody else.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, do you guys have like a quota to meet daily and or weekly for the website to post article? Because obviously, like watch releases happen various times throughout the years. Obviously, heavy flow in
Yeah,
April. But like, what is management like for the site then? Like,
yeah. I mean, the minimum comfort zone would probably be 2 stories a day.
okay,
And then with the size of the team, if we start pushing over five, it gets really busy,
yeah,
and it'll start to tax everybody. So the comfort zone's probably to have something this is EST time, but would be 9, 11, and 1 is pretty comfortable, pretty normal to my time, both leading at Hodinkee, but even before, into I started in 2017 with the site, and that was sort of their methodology then as well. And you get a lot where there's a certain embargo that you may or may not want to hit. Some matter
right.
more than others as far as the exact timing. I'm
Hmm.
not sure being first means as much as it used to be 10 years ago for SEO and all those other things. But in some cases, it can definitely make a difference. And then, you take your 2 or 3 stories a day and you blend in all the stuff that might happen. Some brands don't ever tell you what's coming. You just
Hmm.
wake up and Tudor launched a 39 millimeter chronograph. There was no heads up on that. We had some idea that something was coming, but with Tudor, that could be a video like it was this past Monday, or it could be a watch, or it could be something for F1 or something like that. So,
Yeah, totally. What's your thought on the chronograph since you mentioned it, especially it coming out in yellow? I think I read somewhere the other day somebody was like taking a poll, was like, was yellow the right color to release first, so to speak?
yeah, I think it's a great move. That 39 has become a little bit of a signature for them between the 58s, the Pelagos 39, and now the Chrono. And I think if there were a complaint, like an easily, quote unquote, easily changeable complaint or feedback, maybe complaint's the wrong word, feedback from people who liked the Black Bay Chrono, it's just that it was kind of big.
Yeah.
And at 41, like that new Doxa is 42 and wears smaller than a 41 Black Bay.
Yeah.
And it's just a question of length of the lugs, thickness, all that kind of thing. If you have the
Hmm.
wrist for it, there's so many cool versions of the 41
Hmm.
of the standard Black Bay Chrono, but that 39, that brings you much closer to and this does matter to the math in people's brains, but it brings you much closer to a Daytona sizing
Sure.
than the 41 was. And I think it also brings them closer to like the big block, the previous sort of sizing that the brand might have operated in terms of non-dive chronographs.
Yep.
So with being the ability to probably bend that like they have with the Pelagos FXD chronos and the cycling one and all that kind of thing in different
Mm.
directions. And look, the yellow for me, it's a summer release. You've got the pink and the flamingo blue in the past. I think it makes sense. It makes it a bigger moment.
Yeah. That's where
I
my
don't.
brain went.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that. If I was leading, if it was my call, I don't have that kind of bravery. I would have done yellow, blue, and black,
Right.
and just been like, do it all. But that's not Tudor's playbook. You look back at how they've done successive Black Bay releases, both full size and 41 or 39s, and then down into the 54. They come out in a color, and then
Hmm.
later there'll be another color. Whereas other brands might release 4 or 5 colors of something, the full SKU range or whatever. Look at another great 39 millimeter watch, the Hydra Conquest from Longines, just an absolutely killer watch. Came out in like, I don't know, 6, 7 versions.
Yeah.
It's just a different methodology, and I think I'm not really sure why. I'm sure there's a business standpoint. The one thing to keep in mind with Tudor is that they do not produce any stock. They only produce orders.
Mm.
So it could be that they don't want to have so many SKUs that complicate their production schedule. This is,
Okay.
again, I'm drawn between the lines. I don't know this. I've watched their watches be produced, and the way that they manage them is they only produce watches that are ordered.
Sure.
They can produce a watch quite quickly at the facility, but they don't. It's not like if you go to Tudor's facility, you can't buy a watch. That would be a very cool thing. I'm a
Yeah.
Tudor nerd. When the Pelagos 39 came out, I was going to go be seeing their new manufacturer at the time, or even I was there back in February, and you go, I would buy a Ranger just to say that I got it at the factory, and they go, we don't sell any watches here. We don't have a watch for you.
Right.
You can order a watch through your AD, and we'll make it quite quickly.
Yeah, it's not like
But
a factory store, there,
yep,
or like European delivery
and
for a
and I
car.
guess yeah, exactly. And I should be fair. Like if I'm saying orders, it's not that a human being goes and puts their credit card down, add an AD, and that initiates the order. The AD has bought those watches, has ordered
Right.
those watches, but it's based on standing orders from retailers,
Yeah. Watches and wonders and that
and
kind
that
of
that
thing.
could be why one color makes more sense than five,
Yeah,
or
sure.
or why they slowly build up on lines.
I traditionally view you as sort of a GMT complication type of guy, not
Sure.
necessarily a chronograph guy, but where do you sit on the twin register versus like a three register chronograph?
Yeah, I'm so like deeply not a chronograph guy that I'm not sure I care.
Okay,
My
fair enough.
preference, if I was buying a chronograph, I would want a 12-hour totalizer, like a 12-hour maximum measure,
Sure.
just to get the most. But
Yeah.
like I would say currently in my life, probably all of my chronographs are like Annie-Digi chronographs.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a aerospace or I've got that weird Bell and Ross version of the kind of same movement as the
Yeah.
aerospace, that kind of thing is more my zone of
Hmm.
Aqualand. And I like those when you can get enough to time a very long flight
Yeah.
is kind of nice. But I'm not so much a chronograph guy. I think that being a dive watch guy and mostly I probably want to time things under an hour. You just spin the bezel,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
What
then
is
if you
your
have a
most,
12-hour bezel, you can go back and do a whole 12-hour flight using the bezel. So,
yeah, sure, sure. What was your most recent purchase?
mm, what is my most recent purchase? DWC Terra.
Okay.
So the Delhi Watch Co., the Indian watch company, Delhi Watch Co. They did for their fifth anniversary. They did these the Terra. I spoke about it on a TGN, and it's
Mhm.
a little like rectangular titanium watch with a quartz movement
Yep.
that has like actual built-in like carabiner style hooks that you
Hmm.
actually swing a strap through.
That's so cool.
And it was like $45. I think it was
Amazing.
under $100 Canadian by the time they shipped it and the tax got here. But it
Yeah.
was like insane demand to
Yeah.
get one, and now they're going to start doing them in steel. But I think that's the last one that I bought. I had the Hydra Conquest in on loan, thanks Longines Canada for sending me one, which was lovely, but I didn't buy that one.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. The last thing that I put my own credit card down for was that DWC
Gotcha. What would you consider to be like getting the most wrist time currently? Maybe
aerospace with
this
the
year.
Ming
Okay.
polymesh.
Got it. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the most hard combo in titanium. The
That
watch weighs nothing. The bracelet weighs nothing. It's
that
incredibly
bracelet's
comfortable.
insane. Yeah, it's like
The watch is
fabric.
like so incredibly intuitive. It's for me. It's like it's a peak, if not, it's a. We'll switch from peaks and go to like Rushmore. It's on the
Mhm.
Rushmore of quartz that's worth owning or trying. And
Yeah.
I'm something of a fan of quartz, but especially if you're getting all these extra features, hyper accurate, little
Yeah.
digital displays, tons of features, great use for switching time zones,
Hmm.
hour jumping, digital micro motors in the movement and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love that watch. I wear it a ton.
Yeah. It's
It's
such a
that one or
great
the Pelagos 39, and the Pelagos 39 is currently in New York because we're filming a video series that it's part of, and so I miss it. I tried to like I've probably 3 or 4 times in the last month I've like gone to my watch box being like, where is my? Oh, all right, it's down south. So
Oh wow. Okay, wait. So you're filming, so you use your personal watch for that filming.
yeah, so we,
And
along with many others in our space, went to a whole like supply chain tour of Tudor.
right. Is that
So
February, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So to kind of illustrate that or bring it back home, we were using my Pelagos 39 as the sort of a frequent star of the episode, or what will end up being 3 episodes, and so just to make sure that we have it on access for my video team to shoot B-roll as they fill in the video segments, I left it in New York
Okay.
because
So
we got
that's
to
a
see the case being made, like hot stamping titanium cases at Joseph Boehm and that sort of stuff. So it was very, very cool. But it
that's
only made me
awesome.
love that watch even more.
Oh yeah. Any
But now I
factory
don't
tour
have it for a
does,
bit.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a factory tour personally?
I mean, they're
Um,
definitely not all made equal, but that was a good one.
sure, sure. What is how was Geneva for you?
A blur. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very busy week and a bit. And it's, I guess, my second year running the team there, so it's yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not sure it's our Super Bowl or the Olympics or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you work all year to be good enough to do that without it destroying you, in
What
terms
what
of
is a day
sleep and
like?
the rest of it.
Like wake up, what do you do? Obviously you're probably pounding coffee, but like
Yeah,
what
I drink a lot of coffee to begin with,
yeah.
so that's probably not a major thing. But yeah, my goal is always, or at least when I was a writer, my goal would be to start the day as late as possible. That doesn't really roll around anymore because your nights will always go late. Nothing's on time. You always have an event, or if you don't have an event, you have stories to write by the time you get home, images to edit, that sort of thing. So a day in the life for me would be, get up and see what the kind of ending status was of the day previous in the New York time zone, how the stories are doing, if the website needs anything scheduled, if it needs another set of eyes. Hopefully we have somebody kind of active in New York that would be a compatriot in that plan.
Mhm.
And then you're probably at the show by 8:30, 9:30 a.m. to start kicking off meetings. Meetings are a half hour to an hour. You're running, from one meeting to another usually. Take meetings until whenever we have our podcast filming for the day. I don't typically, I would not suggest that this to all of my staff. I don't really eat lunch, so I wouldn't take the break for lunch. But you can sit down and eat lunch and have a snack or food while you're there. Of course, that's not for me. I prefer to eat when I'm closer to done my day.
Mhm.
But we would, shoot for an hour for the podcast. You may go back to meetings depending on the timeline, and then usually there's an evening event of some sort. Whether, I published a story again talking about Tudor for this collector kind of event that they did at the HQ. That was probably at from 7 until 9, and then by the time you're back at the hotel, it's 10:30. Once you're out of there, and then you're writing stories, prepping for the episode of the podcast that goes up that day. So that goes to an editor. But you need show notes, you need a photo images that are going to go into it, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then the goal would be to try and be you know asleep by 3 or 4, and then start it again at 7 or 8 the next day.
That's insane. So, and that for a week. So you're on like 3, 4 hours a night
Yeah,
of
we were
sleep.
there because Tim and I stayed and did a live chat with Andy at the event on the Saturday. So I came home Sunday. So yeah, it would have been 8 days. They're
Wow.
not all like that, but definitely the like 5 days that you spend at the fair specifically are probably 8 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Yeah. How far away is Tudor's factory from like where you're staying in Geneva?
The assembly like that they share with Kinesi, it's about an
Yeah.
hour and a half's drive.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys
Yeah,
just
nothing's
hire a
that
car for
far
that.
in Switzerland, but yeah, an hour and a half
Man, that's
up in
nuts.
Lolokla.
What were maybe your top three favorite releases this year?
Hmm. It's a good question. What have I liked? I really like the like you mean from Watches and Wonders or just watches in general that came out this year?
Well, let's go Watches and Wonders. And we'll do whatever you want.
I mean, I really genuinely love that Doxa that came out like yesterday.
Okay.
The 200 T Graph 2. It's the right size. It's you can spec it as feel you can twist your brain to make it feel inexpensive or expensive. So it's probably loosely close to the right price
Sure.
point. It's less than the previous edition they did in 2019. But it's more than the cost of what kind of the middle zone of a Doxa is, whether that's something like a sub
Yeah.
300, which is another one that I wear all the time. Yeah, other stuff. I mean, the Ming bracelet stand. I know it's not a watch, but like that's one of the more exciting things I've seen this year. I've already talked about the DWC Terra. Um, yeah, I mean it's silly for me to say this because I'm never gonna own one. But that Cardinal Points from Vacheron is
Oh
probably
yeah.
my favorite watch in existence right now.
What
Just
color?
Yeah, it's funny. So I spent some time on a trip with the brand recently and got to spend a lot of time with all the colors. And I
Cool.
think the one that I hated the most on paper, I ended up liking the most in person, which is the brown dial. I'm not a brown dial guy. I'm not really a brown
I
guy. I
couldn't
wear
agree
a lot
more.
of brown,
Yeah.
but it's such a grayish brown. And then in
Yes.
some sunlight, like early morning or late evening, there's like a reddish hue that's in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really unique. So it's not tiger's eye brown. It's not 70s brown,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. It's really a lovely. I don't think there's a bad one. The white is maybe almost too flashy. I'm
Okay.
so used to my 16570, which is like a semi sort
Very
of matte
muted. Yeah.
sort of white. The green, for me, green feels so trendy right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I know if you're a green guy, it's a very good green. It's nice, deep and verdant, very kind of piney. And then the blue is probably the easiest choice. It's just the blue and the orange accent is perfect. But the brown, it'd be between I think the brown and blue, which is crazy because I'm on record for years not liking brown dials,
Yeah,
any
it's
of them.
funny. I'm with you 100%. And like, I actually would love. I did a T-shirt in a color called Garage, and it kind of
Okay.
reminds me of this brown. And I would love to actually see them side by side. I love the brown on bracelet, but I
Hmm.
love the white on an orange strap, like as a
Yep,
summer watch.
for
Like
sure.
it was just, super bright. The
It's really
blue,
awesome that they offer the different straps.
yeah,
And I
totally.
couldn't, I think if you're listening to TGN, if you've read the stuff I've put into the watch world for the last 20 years or whatever, I am wildly picky when it comes to straps,
Yeah,
and that watch would never leave the bracelet for me. The
yeah,
rubber is excellent.
yeah,
The textile or the second color rubber that they offer also excellent, but the
yep,
bracelet shrinks the whole watch. It feels like a watch that was designed with the bracelet
sure,
and then they found a way to do a really good job of integrating another option.
right.
But goodness sakes, man, the blue or that brown with on the titanium bracelet, and then I'd love, I really hope in a decade I see one or two that like have been really well
Just beat.
used.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
what a cool watch, dude.
Yeah, it's so good. I really like that one as well. And then the overseas and platinum was just like nuts.
Crazy for sure. I mean, yeah, would look totally out of scope on my wrist,
Yeah.
to my taste, but if that's the zone that you're in, that one, the 50th sort of Nautilus in the
Yeah.
3800 sort of sizing,
Oh, so
crazy.
good.
Those are so decidedly non-casual watches simply because of the audience around them.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of disconnect yourself from that a little bit, they're so normal on your wrist. Like they
Hmm.
feel so kind of like natural in how a watch should be. But obviously these watches like Nautiluses and Platinum, Vacherons have baggage, whether it's from the price point or the how limited they are. And I think that can change the way that people kind of interface with them. But if you get the chance, I mean, a 3800 Nautilus is a wonderful thing on your wrist.
I mean, it's
They're very cool.
perfect. It's
Yeah.
funny you brought up price because I had a note written down and I wrote this down a while ago, actually. Um, but it was about the separation of watches and their prices
Mhm.
that I think you've spoken about before, that I think bears repeating.
Yeah, I think the thing that I try and champion is not buying watches, but it's loving watches.
Hmm.
And if you're buying a watch, the price matters a lot. Let's be clear. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of their position if they feel that like one, pricing sensitivity is incredibly subjective, and I can look at the new T graph and go, yeah, a little over 4 grand makes sense largely in the scope of 2026, and you can look at it and go, that's an insane amount of money for an SW510. People put a lot of focus on what a movement costs versus what it costs in a watch,
Yeah.
which I think can always use some adjustment in terms of expectations. But the thing that I would say most strongly is you can like a watch and never own it. You can learn everything about it, like this Cardinal Points, or I'm not a giant Submariner fan, but like
Mm.
5517 mil subs. Let's go. But I'll read anything I can about them. They're
Sure.
the Eames chair of dive
Right,
watches,
right. Yeah.
the education, the interest in that doesn't have to cost anything.
Mm.
Maybe you might have to buy a book. Never hurts to buy a book.
Right.
But yeah, I think that right now a lot of the discourse and the conversation around watches comes from people who aren't necessarily in the market but have an opinion on the price.
Hmm.
And I would love it if people who weren't necessarily in the market had an opinion about like the grander scope of the watch, or what its competition is. Because I think if you can't find competition for a watch, it's probably overpriced or very unique and interesting. That could be a
Right.
possibility.
Sure.
But yeah, the hyper fixation on the price thing, I think is real, and I can't really blame anybody. Um, but I do worry that watches will some watches are pricing themselves out of relevancy with enthusiasts, so people don't even talk about them.
Oh,
Could be a good
interesting.
watch, but it's so expensive that you just go like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. I'm going to talk, if it's this or that, I'll talk about the one that's either buyable. That's a problem for some watches for sure. Or, you know, one that makes more sense. And it's like, look at the relevancy of like a Tissot PRX. It's because it's accessible and it hits a certain line, right?
Yeah.
And I think other brands will have gotten to the point where they can make a very good product, but the number they're charging for it can mean
Mm.
that people just kind of look the other way. They just go like, oh, okay, well,
Right. Right.
not for me, I guess.
Yeah.
And I like a world where enthusiasts go, pretty much everything's for me. I'd like to know about all of it.
You're a big car guy. So I kind of want to know your sort of opinion about what I'm about to ask, because it's like I look at cars and I look at watches, and I think it's fair to say that we're in an era now where they're both expensive, depending on the brand, especially.
For sure.
Um, i- i- is there a world where you see one or the other more worth it? Like, let's use like a Lumen Longa, right, for
Hmm.
$500,000. But then you also see a Ferrari, Dolce Cilindri or whatever it's called. I'll butcher that name, but for an excess of
Sure.
$500,000, is one or the other worth it at that point? I mean, you talk about like hand built, hand engraved balance cocks and that whole
Yeah.
world.
I mean, I come from a middle class family. Neither
Right.
of these things are worth the
No,
number. You know what
no,
I
no, no.
mean?
I get it. I get
I
it.
still lead a largely middle class life. I love these products. The Hodinkee cylinder I think is quite interesting, and I
Yeah.
love Illumin. Adore that's the Longa that glows in the dark. It's
Yeah.
rad. But I mean, worth it is such a
Yeah.
weird thing. And also when you're talking about the amount of money that you could buy a house for, or in some parts of the world, multiple houses,
Right.
worth it would be how much do you lose once you sign the piece of paperwork that says it's yours. I
Right.
don't like to be a valuations guy. I might start printing T-shirts that say like money's never made anything cooler, ever. Like in the history of ever, the money, like earning money, if you're a successful athlete and you have a great contract, that's cool. But like
Yeah.
the actual money didn't make you playing basketball cooler or whatever, right?
Right.
And money hasn't made Ferrari cooler. Money hasn't made watches cooler. Certainly, it didn't make money all on its own as a concept. Didn't make NFTs cooler, right? Like it's all kind of money doesn't make music better,
Right.
or that sort of thing. So yeah, I might be the wrong guy to ask about something like that because I kind of just roll my eyes at it. My also like as I've gotten older, if we talk about I've been the first things I would read about, and I'm not a car collector, I'm not a real car owner, but kind of like I was talking about with watches, I still try and like learn about anything I find interesting.
Hmm.
But my interest in the hypercar, the supercar kind of stuff has really, really diminished in the
Yeah,
last
same.
decade. Everything's an automatic. I'm not here to be a purist. I'm not here to tell you how to drive your cars. There's no way I'm ever spending big money on a vehicle that's an automatic. Just
Right.
never. I'd
Right.
rather just my Toyota Sienna will get me to the same place without a clutch pedal. There's a few things that I absolutely need. You know what I mean? I'm not going to spend huge money on a craft cocktail that doesn't have an incredible whiskey in it or something like that. And I'm just not interested in the experience of as good as. And I spent a lot of time in back in my day when I was writing about cars in some exceptionally fast, really high quality cars with automatics. But like a McLaren 720 is an incredible thing. I could go slower with a stick. I'd be okay. That'd be fine.
Right.
Do you
You're
know what I
still
mean?
going fast, mind you. Like it's
Too
just
fast for me.
slower.
I mean, this is Ontario. They'll just take the car away.
Well, it's funny you bring up the craft cocktail thing because I certainly did not have this written down. What's your take on these non-alcoholic beverages being just as expensive?
Just as expensive is probably I don't actually know the term and I apologize, but there's a world where like once you're in an area, there's a given price for things. If
Mm,
you're already at the bar and a beer is $8 or whatever, and the
yeah.
non-alcoholic beer is $8, you're buying something for $8.
Right.
Get the one that you want. I am kind of routinely surprised by like what they cost at the grocery store, where you go like, there's not even any alcohol in that.
Right.
But that said, I also wouldn't want to be unfair because I don't know. Is it more work to dealcoholize?
Well, that's the
Goodness
thing
sakes,
is
did not
like,
pronounce that word. Dealcoholize a beer given, or just make it right. I don't really know. I don't want to speak out of turn. It feels like it should cost less because I'm not getting a buzz from it. But I buy a fair amount of non-alcoholic beer. I like it quite a bit.
yeah. Well, it's kind of
It's
like
hard to
the
justify all the calories at 40 of
right,
like
right,
a
sure,
good
sure.
IPA is like a small meal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, it's also kind of one of those things where like this expensive watch has a less expensive movement in it. It's kind of almost
Or less
tangential
accurate, or
than
yeah,
that.
for sure.
It's like, um, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I just look at the like $500,000 watch thing and then like the $500,000 car thing. It's like, I don't have the money to buy either. But it's just kind of like, gosh, they're both like have all these moving parts inside, but like for some reason this one's just so small that like
Yeah.
I could like sit in that thing and this
Hmm.
is sitting on me, like
For sure.
there's like this just whole like perception of size and what it actually does and
Yep.
but that needs
Yeah, the watch
fuel
thing,
and
you're not paying for the same level of anything that you are in a car. You're
yeah,
paying more of a watch tax, I think.
yeah.
There's maybe minimal exceptions to that. But I also think, where the tip over of a car where you're now paying for a bunch of stuff you don't necessarily need is much high. Like the need or don't need for a watch is probably like $40. The
Yeah.
need don't need for a car these days is probably like 40 grand
Yeah, it was like
for just like
40,000
if you're talking
bucks.
about a
Yeah.
new car, right? That would check the boxes for most people's like mode of transportation, but you
Hmm.
don't need a watch, so they can always charge more for it because you're
Hmm.
buying it for emotional reasons. There has to be
Right.
some element of a vehicle that is just a fridge or a microwave with wheels. It's an appliance to do the
Totally.
task that you want from it. But as soon as you're into the world of like, I'm buying this anything, art, a car, an experience, whatever, I'm buying it for largely emotional reasons, whether you
Hmm.
want to show off to people who want to know how much money you're worth, or you really love to drive fast, or you want to take it to a track and you want it not to break, or whatever the reasons, or maybe it's all of those things, they're charging for that for
Yeah.
sure.
I love the
Again, they're
comparison.
charging for the buzz, right?
Yeah. I love the comparison of a refrigerator to an electric car
Oh,
because
that's what my Toyota is.
when
It's a
it's
fridge with
full, it's
wheels,
great, and when it's empty, it sucks. You
for
know?
sure. But yeah, I mean, and I see this among people younger than me, certainly, and among some of the car obsessed people in my life is they can't disconnect themselves from like the car has to fit. Every car they have kind of has to fit a certain vibe, and I go like, hey, if you're I'm not buying a van to do what I would want a GT3 to do, and
Right.
nor the other way around. If you're buying for the feeling, yeah, you should be pretty specific. You should buy something cool, all that kind of thing. If you're buying for utility, just buy something that works. It's a
Yeah.
depreciating asset that falls apart.
Right. Yeah, maintenance. Is there a watch that's not being made currently that you wish was?
Oh, sure. Omega 2254 Seamaster, or just give me a modern Seamaster with sword hands.
Got it.
The 95 post sort of Seamaster that came out of the Bond era with the skeleton hands. I understand it's beloved. I'm not begrudging anybody that, but I liked a world where both were available.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd love to see Rolex, go back to more of a 5-digit thinking for their professional lineup. A
Hmm.
little smaller, a little less shiny. They probably won't. It doesn't look like business is so bad for them.
Right.
I would be thrilled, literally thrilled, because like I've already talked about it once on the show, but like the aerospace.
Yeah.
But go back to the 40 millimeter. It's less than a centimeter thick. Crown, a fully crown operated, very elegant, simple, easy to use.
Hmm.
They had an aerospace model from a couple years back that came out, and it was a little bit bigger, and it used pushers, and it lost some of the kind of appeal of those other movements. Yeah, I think there's tons and tons of watches that aren't made anymore that I think that era of IWC, that was like the 35, like the with the Aqua Timer with the black yellow bezel, or the Cousteau
Yeah.
one. I loved all of those. The GST stuff. I mean, clearly I'm just now just an old guy saying that like he likes stuff from the 2000s.
Right.
Um, to a certain extent, I guess that's true, right?
I think for like the last 3 years, people have been talking about the aqua timers, like wanting them to come back and or
I
updated
think
and
that
like,
everybody's watching the really strong 5-year run of IWC. There was a window of time where they developed these movements that people wanted, but they all had to be in larger watches because the movements were kind of large.
yeah.
And then over time, we've seen more and more watches come down in their product line, and I think the whole time you're just going like, could you guys take that formula and just do it to the diver? Because the Aqua Timer is just so sweet, and they make such a good watch. And I'm sure they will at some point. They focused on Ingenieur for a couple years. They focused on the Pilot for a couple years. We saw more Portuguesers and more QPs and that sort of thing. But eventually, they've got to come back to that diver. And I think with the right mix of GST era, where they came from, and
Yeah.
what they're doing now, they could make a
Mhm.
product that would be very, very compelling.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see it, just if for nothing else, just to see what they would do, right? Like even just
Yep.
visually, like the handset and what color the bezel would be. Because the black
Yep.
and yellow was like my favorite. My buddy
It was very
Mitch
cool.
has that one, so I love that watch.
Yeah,
Um,
but go back to the era of the Deep 2, the Deep 1, like these really tech forward,
mhm.
interesting, oddball, ludicrously expensive sort of stuff that's like makes for a good flagship. I
Yeah,
like that era of IWC as well. But
yeah, totally.
I think they're doing a great job right now, and obviously they have some great partners, and Formula One's looking good for them and that sort of thing. But hopefully
Yeah.
they come back to the water at some point. I'm sure they will.
Are you keeping up with Formula One right now?
Yeah, my wife and I like to watch it all. So we finished Barcelona. We did it a little late. I think we got to it that evening. But
Oh,
as long as
sure.
you stay off social media, F1 TV makes it easy enough to watch it later.
Yeah. I like that they went to Apple too, because like otherwise I
Yeah,
would
not in
just,
Canada. That's for you guys.
oh, is that right? Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Oh,
I'm
that's
still on
interesting.
F1 TV, which is fine.
Okay.
It works fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. Um,
No,
who
it's
do,
been an exciting season so far.
there's somebody that asked Lewis after the race, like, oh, do you think like the latter half of the season, do you think you might be in the run for the championship? And I was just like, he won once, but Kimmy crashed, like, Kimmy didn't finish. So like I don't know that we could jump to that conclusion that
Well,
Ferrari's all
I'd
of a
also
sudden.
say like he's isn't he in second place in standing? So he is in the run of some like mathematically.
Is he in
I
second or
think
third? I can't remember. But yeah,
maybe it's
he's
third.
towards the top. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think he's got as good a chance as anybody else that isn't Kimi Antonelli. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
right.
he's I think he's in a better spot than George. It's my understanding the points delta for George, or at least up before Barcelona, was further than anyone had come back from.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Lewis, yeah, I think you might be right. I think he is in second.
So
Um,
I'm always astounded by the depths of the stupidity of the questions that people ask. Maybe they're just not they need somebody in their ear, but it's always the most obvious question.
right,
But like asking someone who's in second place if they think they have a shot at first is either a math question, how many
right.
points are left in the series, but they haven't awarded it to Kimmy yet, and we're still pretty early,
Yeah,
roughly speaking, in
yeah.
the way that the race on points starts a little later in the season.
Hmm.
where you really start to go, well, this has to happen, or this person's off the board, and I think we're still a little bit too early for some of that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a silly question. If he starts winning and drives like he did in Barcelona, we continue to have a very interesting season.
I
The
think it
thing that I
was.
think is, oh please,
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the thing that stands out for me this season versus others is some of the driving is less interesting, but the like start of the race or mid battle racing, especially the same team against the same team where the cars are usually pretty evenly matched, it's pretty nuts. Like some of the
Yeah.
stuff between George and Kimmy has been crazy,
Yeah. I'm
real nail biters.
surprised they have not crashed out one another. Like the amount of wheel to wheel that they've had this season has been to your point, like super crazy, interesting
I mean,
to watch.
George is exceptionally talented at making sure that doesn't happen, and I can't fully tell if Kimmy cares.
There's a lot of Senna comparisons going on
Sure,
with Kimmy,
it's
which I
it's a
can
sport that
appreciate.
loves to bring his name up every
Yeah,
5 minutes.
that's true. Um, but like this almost like blind confidence that maybe he
Hmm.
has might be the parallel there, but
Yeah, and
which
just
I
the
can
willingness
appreciate.
to fight,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, totally.
which is fun.
Um, I can't remember if it was Monaco or Barcelona. I want to say it was Monaco that Lewis noticed something on the back of the Mercedes being similar to something that the FIA like said you can't do is regarding their diffuser. I don't know if you ever saw
Okay,
anything about
I
that,
didn't. No, I
but
missed it.
like Lewis was like, "Hey man, their diffuser looks a lot like ours that you guys told us we couldn't
Banned.
use."
Sure.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's actually come and gone or not, but anyway.
I mean, it's Formula One. Look at the history of it. If you're not cheating, you're not really trying. So
Right. Well, exactly. Right. Like it's what you can get away with, really.
absolutely,
Um, you still have your Jeep, right?
I do. Yeah, yeah. We only have one parking spot where I live now, so the Jeep spent the last few months at my parents, and then
Okay.
just a couple weekends ago, put a fresh battery in it and drove it all the way up to the cottage, so it'll be up there for the summer. We still do a lot of kind of like property work up there, trailer pulling, going to the dump, that sort of thing, as we're refurbishing the old farmhouse.
Okay.
And I don't really want to do that to the van.
Sure.
It doesn't have a tow hitch, which is probably a smart move on my part because I would use it.
Right.
But no, it's nice. It's nice to have the Wrangler for sure, and it was just a delight to drive,
Yeah.
a 6 speed again.
Yeah, that's great. What mods have you done to that? Totally. Like, have you
Oh,
like messed
only
with?
ones that made it worse. Only
Oh,
ones that made it worse for
really?
sure. Yeah, yeah. Pretty much everything I've done to it in some way made it less reliable. It's been a really reliable vehicle for me largely, but every time that there's a problem, it's like, oh, it turns out you did this piece of wiring wrong for these headlights or whatever.
Oh, I see.
Um,
So
it
it
definitely has a
zapped the
ground
battery.
problem, which looks to have been, oh, I've been through a few batteries for sure. But yeah, nothing major. I haven't done much to it. I mean, I'm not out rock crawling. This was my daily driver for a while.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was going to go to 35s or 37s or something like that. It was mostly like, it was a 20, it is a 2011, so the lighting absolutely sucked. I went all LED for the headlights and that sort of thing.
Got it.
And then the rest has just been trying to maintain as much reliability as possible. So, I'm not pushing any boundaries on it.
How
It's
many
not
miles are on
fast.
it?
Yeah. Miles, I'm a
Oh,
kilometers man.
got it.
I think we're at 200, about 250,000 kilometers.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah, two
incredible.
43, something like that.
So, what are those all can't be yours?
No, I think I got it at 170, 165, something like
Okay.
that.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Okay, cool. That's
Yeah, I bought
amazing.
it in 2019.
That's
But no,
awesome.
it's been aside from some of the stuff I've done to the electronic system, it's been largely reliable,
Money,
more
no
so than
object.
their reputation.
Okay, last question because I know you got a hard out.
Yeah.
Money, no object. What's the daily driver?
Daily, I probably don't have the temperament um to go vintage. So
Okay.
I would say CT like a CT5 Blackwing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Caddy.
caddy, 6 speed, lots of room.
Amazing.
I would go to jail almost immediately. I mean, it's like 640 some odd horsepower. But yeah, I think that's the one that speaks to me. Again, I like the idea of it being a stick.
Yeah.
There's so many cars that I like where, Alpha Julia Quad or the M5 CS
Yeah.
from the previous generation, like just perfect cars, but the automatic doesn't really do that much for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Not from
Yeah.
like I can't dream about a car that's an automatic. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't register.
I
They're great, and I understand if you commute. I understand your perspective. I don't. I work from home. I'm in my
yeah,
office right now.
the only caveat to that might be like an RS4 Avant from Europe because we don't have them here. But like
Yeah,
that's just, it is what it is. It doesn't come in stick, sadly.
yeah.
But man,
Alpha
Cadillac's
4C
so
didn't come in
underrated.
stick. Very cool.
Yeah, I just think Cadillac's so underrated. They're
Yeah, I
great
love the way they
styling.
look on the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
I live in, I'm sure it's the same in much of your listeners' parts of the world, but where I live in Toronto, it's just Nissan Rogues and RAV4s. That's it. That's all everyone drives. So when you see a sedan and it's a really good looking modern sedan, like
Stands out.
if I see an E39, I'm happy even if it's a base model. I'm just
Right.
thrilled.
Yeah.
If I see an E46, I'm in. If I see a great E63 of any type or an E55 from the two gens back, I'm
Totally.
down.
Yeah.
But like it's a modern sedan that looks pretty good. There's like five of them left, really good looking modern sedans, and only one of them has a stick. I'm in for the Cadillac for sure.
That's
And I've
sick.
liked the CTS-V, back when they had the wagon, the insane wagon.
Yeah.
It's two gens back, I guess. But yeah, good things. I haven't driven one, so I couldn't
It's
tell you
like
how they drive. I'm sure
stealthy
they're fun.
angles to it,
Yeah,
Just
yeah, good lighting.
yeah,
They sit low,
it's great.
don't look like a Nissan Rogue. So
Yeah.
I'm in.
Sick. James, thank you for your time as always, man. Great to see you.
Man, an
Good to
absolute
catch
pleasure.
up.
Thanks so much for this.
Yeah, this blew by.
Oh yeah, easy
Enjoy the
hour.
rest of the day. Really appreciate it. Say hi to Jason for me.
Will do,
And
of course.
yeah, okay, I guess I'll see you guys on the Slack.
You bet.
Okay, buddy.